Good day, everyone. My name is Angelo, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're gonna talk about some breaking news that I found very exciting. Unfortunately, we had another mass shooting, and I believe 7 people died. So, yeah, killed 7 and wounded at least 21, which is really unfortunate. Um, but I do like Texas's, or I don't even know if that's how you would say that. Like, I do like how Texas has responded to this. So just if you want to read the article, I'll leave it in the description below. In Midland, Texas, uh, another mass shooting happened, and basically some of the laws that were passed during the state's 2019 legislative session, and which took effective September 1st, which is today. So we have HB 1143, which prevents public school districts and open enrollment charter schools from regulating how licensed individuals store their firearms or ammunition in their vehicle on a school parking lot. So I believe this is in reference to how in the state of Texas you can't have your firearm on the school premises at all. Premises refers to the actual physical building. Property refers to everything that individual owns. So, for an example, if someone says you can't conceal carry on my premises and post a sign, he's referring to the very specific building that the sign is on. Whereas when it comes to property, he or she is referring to, we'll take Walmart for an example, right? If they say property, they're referring to the Walmart parking lot and Walmart themselves and anything else Walmart might own. So, like if Walmart owns all the way up to the sidewalk, so let's just kind of give that out of the way. All right, and then we have HB 1387, which removes limitations on the number of faculty and staff that can be designated as armed school marshals per campus. Previously, there could only be one marshal per 200 students or one marshal per school building. So basically, this pretty much what this says is that I know some people think that this means that, oh, teachers can conceal carry at their school. This isn't exactly true. I haven't read HB 1387 yet, but just from this 3-line summary that I'm reading, what it's saying is that now that if you had 200 students or less, or you only had one school building, now like schools cannot either schools cannot limit it to one, or it removes the limitation that only one marshal can be there per 200 or per school building. Now, in my opinion, I don't know why Texas would do that. It doesn't sound very Texan to limit, like for the state to limit how many armed marshals there could be at a school. It sounds more like the school would be limiting how many armed marshals are at the school, for for perception of safety and whatnot. For some reason, people think that when you have multiple armed guards at a school, that inherently makes a school seem like unsafe or seem like there's a lot of not corruption, but a lot of bad things happening at the school. When in reality, it's actually the exact opposite. Um, Obviously, people that want to commit atrocities are not going to go to a school that has 6 or 7 armed guards and there's only 200 students, for example. Now, again, I haven't read this bill again, but from that 3 sentence summary, that's what I got out of it. Now, at places of worship, SB 535 clarifies that places of religious worship are the same as other private properties. They must give notice if guns are banned on their premises. Churches, mosques, and synagogues were previously off limits. So, with this one, like it's kind of hairy because the chart that I have said that churches were okay as long as I had my license, and then if they had a posted sign that they were not okay. But this honestly just clarifies it for me altogether, where like now I know that if I were to enter a church, I can legally do so with my concealed firearm as long as they do not have the Texas issued sign, right? Which, if you don't know what that looks like, I'll put one up on the screen right now. And basically, it just tells me that now that I don't go to church here because I'm Buddhist and there's one temple, and I personally don't think it's very good. But if I were, now I could legally carry my firearm in the said religious area. So this one is kind of like an addition. I don't remember the last time a federal state disaster was declared, but I've also only been in Texas for a year. So HB 1177 allows citizens to carry firearms without a license if they're not prohibited by law from having a gun. For a full week after a declared state of disaster, the law also allows disaster shelters to accommodate those with firearms. So, from my understanding, the only real new thing about HB 1177 is that the law now also allows disaster shelters to accommodate those with firearms. I think that's the only real new part of it, because from my understanding, the first part of the summary was already a thing, right? I believe that was passed back in either late May, early June, where if a disaster happened, you have a week to be able to carry a firearm uh, without a license. Now, I think HB 1177 might have wiped away the must carry openly part of that law because when I first heard about a version of HB 1177, it was talking about how a week after a federal or state disaster is declared, you can openly carry a firearm without a license. Right? I remember that specifically. I think this bill now removes the openly carry part. Again, I'd have to read up on this bill outside of this summary, and I'm trying to keep this video fairly short. So now this one, it's not so much that I have a really big problem with. I just don't understand a person that would honestly, what's the word am I looking for? Agree to certain terms, and I'll get to that here in a minute. So first off, we have HB 302, which prohibits residential lease agreements from restricting lawful possession of a firearm by tenants, guest owners, and landlords alike. Uh, in this very, very short summary, I would assume that this now means that if your landlord or your apartment complex does not allow you to conceal carry a firearm or openly carry a firearm, that now this is illegal to have that in the lease agreement. Again, I'd have to fully read the bill to fully understand it. HB 2363 updates how certain foster homes can store their firearms. Previously, they had to store items separately in locked locations. Now, items can be stored together with trigger locking device in the same secure location. So, from again it's 4 lines, guys. So without me reading the bill yet, I'm just trying to get this out real quick. But from my understanding, they probably had a very California way of doing it, where they probably had to have a firearm in a safe and then ammunition in like a lockbox, but they couldn't be in the same room or like in the same vicinity. So I would assume now that this is kind of null and void since they can be stored together with a trigger locking device in the same secured location. So now instead of having ammunition in a lockbox in your room and then a safe in, we'll say, the den, you can have the you can have them in the same room in the same secured location. It doesn't say anything about having the firearm be legally loaded, but again, this is just a summary. I would assume so, but I'd have to read the bill. And then my favorite one, which is HB 121, which is defends license to carry holders, LTC holders, who trespass in a space prohibiting guns as long as the holder promptly leaves the property after being asked. So, with this one, I can see at least with this one, only these 2 lines without me actually reading this bill. The very first thing I think is that, for an example, if I walk into a place that has a sign that says that I cannot conceal carry in this establishment or open carry in this establishment, which is the sign that I showed you earlier, this just now means that if I get caught, right, and as soon as I'm asked, I have to leave, and as long as I don't put up a fight about it, I will not be charged for a crime, right? For violating that penal code. That's the very first thing that I think of. I'm definitely gonna have to update myself on this House bill. I believe that's what HB stands for. I'm gonna definitely have to read up on this one, make sure I fully understand the law properly. I highly recommend that you do the same if anything ever changes in your state, if you carry in your state. But just by seeing these 2 lines, the first thing that I interpret now is that if I intentionally or unintentionally walk into a place that prohibits my gun, as long as I promptly leave after being asked, then I will not be charged with a crime. Now, with this being said, just by looking at these 2 lines, this doesn't protect me that if I use my firearm in self defense in this prohibited area, that they won't charge me with a crime. Again, I'd have to read this, and I don't even know if this will actually go directly to it. Oh, it actually does, and I'd have to actually go through and read all of it, which I'm not going to do right now. But with that being said, this is kind of the update on the state of Texas. It is rather unfortunate that there has been a mass atrocity committed again, but I at least now that not only is there an immediate reaction, but a very appropriate reaction. Now, instead of banning guns or making gun laws more restrictive, now we're loosening them up. So now the state of Texas is giving people, specifically licensed carry holders, more reason to carry and to carry more often because now, like, for an example, if a school, like right here, if a school said that you could not have a firearm on the premises, then now at least you'll have your firearm in your car because the reason why you never had it in your car in the first place is because you always dropped your kid off at school and picked them up, right? Or in this case, right, for church and stuff, before you weren't allowed to carry in a church, and and as we know about the Southland Park, not Southland Park, the other Texas one that was over in East Texas, the one about the NRA guy that that fired onto that mass shooter, right? None of those people had their firearms because it was not legal in the state of Texas to carry your firearm in that church, and this puts that null and void. So now churches they're making less gun-free zones, which is exactly what you need to do because the state of Texas realized that these people that commit these atrocities only target gun-free zones or target weak places that have very poor gun policies. And that's what I'm really excited for. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next one.